Hey listeners, Dr. Yeager here, and thanks for tuning in once again to another Full Circle Animal Healthcare podcast. Welcome. Today I have something to confess. Even though I have a soft spot for all animals in my heart, dogs. Well, I think dogs are kind of the best. There's a reason dogs are said to be man's best friend. They always seem to understand us. Have you ever been talking to your dog and you get the feeling they just know what you're talking about? Well, as it turns out, that just may be the case. There's been a lot of hubbub lately about some recent research that implies our lovable dogs may be interpreting language in much the same way that people interpret language. That is to say, to dogs, speech isn't just sound. It is a complex understanding that interprets not only what we say, but how we say things. Now, I know what most of you are thinking. Us dog people have always known that our dogs are intelligent and understanding beings. Well, we were right to think so, and now we have science to back this up. This study opens a lot of doors to understanding the layers of complexity that make up our dogs. And perhaps most interestingly, this study lays the scientific groundwork for research on more possible similarities between human and canine cognitive abilities. So, how is it that dogs process speech? Well, first let's define speech and communication as an array of sound sequences. The tones of each sound sequence or word and the sounds of expression that can accompany them, such as laughter or crying. So, before this study, it was well known that dogs could indeed recognize words through memorization, and that they do respond on some level to tone of voice. In itself, that was still pretty amazing. This groundbreaking study, though, shows us that Fido or Fluffy actually process and understand our way of speaking. It shows us that their brains also understand the layers that make human language so incredibly dynamic and up to interpretation. Just like human brains, dog brains take cues from the tone of voice and hand signals used to comprehend meaning. Dogs become familiar with language much the same way a human being understands language, by identifying sound sequences and then connecting those sequences to certain movements, thoughts, items, or memories. When the sound sequences have something to match, and that match the same thing each time it is spoken, the brain will go to work at storing that sound sequence, and thus a library of vocabulary begins. This is why consistency is so crucial when it comes to training your dog. That repetition is the key for teaching your dog certain words, commands, or behaviors. But there are so many factors that affect our words. We've all heard the saying, it's not what you say, but how you say it. The truth, though, is that what we say and how we say it both have a lot of bearing on what we are trying to communicate will be interpreted. This has been thought to be a neural processing ability that is unique to humans. We see now that when it comes to our vocabulary, we humans appear to be unique only in that we invent words and their usage. Perhaps this is one of the many similarities that have made mankind's relationship with dogs so special. Attila Andix, one of the head researchers in the Department of Ethology at Lorland University in Hungary, and his team are part of the Family Dog Project, which aims to, quote-unquote, study the behavioral and cognitive aspects of the dog-human relationship. By using magnetic resonance imaging, or MRIs, they were essentially able to take pictures of the dog's brains, allowing for the team to study the brain activity that those pictures were able to demonstrate. They showed the team which areas of the brain were being stimulated in response to certain words or phrases spoken by their trainer. They used a voice that all of the dogs were familiar with. The trainer used words that were either of praise or neutral words, as well as marked and unmarked words, combined with neutral or flat intonation or praiseful higher-pitched intonation. And within those bounds, they used every possible combination of words and intonation. The results of the study are fantastic, though there is still a lot of research to be done. It has shown us that the reward center of the canine brain is activated much the same way that human brain reward center is activated, and that there is a similar process of interpretation that leads it to being activated. This interpretation only stimulates the reward center of the brain when words and intonation are both praising. For humans and dogs, understanding words evokes an analytical and emotional response from both of our brains. Both the left and the right side of the brain must be stimulated positively to invoke the sense of reward. For dogs and people, the left hemisphere of the brain processes the meaning of a word. The right hemisphere is the side of the brain that analyzes intonation. Both sides of the brain can work independently to interpret sound sequence, and they can also work together. All of us who love and have dogs know this to be true. Think about asking your dog to sit for you. If you say, "Good boy," your dog will understand that it was a good thing for him to sit, but that's about it. He likely won't take that as a verbal reward for listening to you. That's because you have only stimulated the left side of his brain. If you say, "Good boy," both sides of his brain will be stimulated. Your dog will feel reward because you not only said he did something good, but you showed him praise with the tone of your voice. This is the same thing for people. The words we say and how we say them simply go hand in hand. This study opens the doors to multitudes of questions and theories about how the canine brain works. It is certainly proved that their brain is far more sophisticated than many researchers previously assumed. Recent years have shown researchers and scientists becoming more and more interested in learning about man's best friend, and hopefully the trend will continue. There certainly is a great deal of information to be obtained from further research. Andix was right back in 2014 when he said this study might help explain what has made vocal communication between dogs and people so successful, or what has made the alliance of canines and humans so incredibly effective. Is this an evolutionary trait? Is there a link between social evolution of dogs and people and voice selective regions of the brain? Have dogs truly ever attempted to replicate human language through their barks? The possibilities and the questions that precede them are endless. This study shows us to never underestimate our dogs. It is clear that we have much to learn from them, just as they have much to learn from us. How have we affected one another's traits over the many, many, many years that have been sought? Each other's close companionship has been incredibly significant. So go give your dog a belly rub, play in the backyard, and always, always talk to them and use positive reinforcement. They're listening and they are ready to learn. Who knows what new words they will pick up on this week? Well, folks, thanks again for tuning in to another weekly podcast from Full Circle Animal Healthcare. We'll see you next week. Thanks again. Until next time.